part 2 of what is arguably the hottest dogfight of the season. And I know I say that all the time, but this one is going to make holiday shopping challenging for a lot of people. I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and part 2 of the Note 2 versus iPhone 5 dogfight is about to kick off. But first, special thanks to our friends at Best Buy Mobile for giving us devices like this for use in our One-Pawed Bandit giveaway game, which we turn around and give to you at instantwin.phonedog.com. When you walk into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your camera settings, your LTE settings, and more. So when you walk out the door, you're connected, you're getting your email, your text messages, and your phone calls at Best Buy Mobile. They'll take good care of you. Let's take a look. Note 2, iPhone 5. It's part 2 of an awesome dogfight. It starts right now. Part 2 of a dogfight battle between two hot high-end devices on the market. And I say that all the time in the dogfight world, but it's really the truth here. You've got two devices, one of which isn't in the US yet. This is announced and available internationally, and this is an international review unit, or an international device we bought, I should say. Then you have the iPhone 5 over here, available on Verizon, Sprint, and AT&T right now. This, the Note 2, is coming to Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, and US Cellular by the end of the year. It's packing a 1.6 gigahertz quad-core Exynos processor, 5.5-inch Super AMOLED HD display. All in all, a hot device with a 3,100 milliamp hour battery, which is going to make this perfect for a lot of road warriors and people that just don't like charging their phone, or people that use their device on a regular basis. Despite having a large display, been relatively impressed with battery life. That said, let's load up some speed tests here. Now, obviously, this is not going to be the most accurate speed test here, and we won't even do it on this one because of a couple reasons. One, this is an international device, and it's running on AT&T's unlocked, I should say, on AT&T's HSPA Plus network. And so, you know what, speeds aren't as accurate as I'd like them to be. Over here, LTE on Verizon, we can take a look. 5 to 12 megabits per second is what Verizon promises on the download speeds, and 2 to 5 megabits per second on the upload speeds. I also like using the S Pen to point at things. It makes me feel really important, as you can see here. 19 megabits per second on the download, 11 megabits per second on the upload means that this thing's going to be relatively fast. In most LTE markets, Verizon is celebrating, or getting ready to celebrate, their 400th LTE market, so they've done a great job in terms of rollout with that, and I expect that to continue as time goes on. And you know, with Verizon at least, keeping them just in mind for this version, since this is obviously a Verizon iPhone, their LTE rollout is by far the most impressive out of the current carriers' lineups. Very impressive here. 400 markets, like I said, it's very hard not to find a market that has LTE. So the fact that the iPhone 5 supports that is very nice. Finally supports it at that. Let's take a look at Quadrant Standard over here. We'll take a look at that just to give you a benchmark idea between other Android devices. There's obviously no Quadrant Standard over on iOS 6. That said, we'll take a look here. And overall, I've been really impressed with call quality on both. Couple of reasons here. Apple added a third microphone over here, making this far easier when it comes to speakerphone and overall voice clarity on this device. The earpiece is nice and loud. I've had no problems with calls whatsoever on the iPhone 5. I've had no problems with calls whatsoever on the Note 2 either. What I will say about this device is, even for people that like big phones, this thing is big and hard to hold up against the ear. It feels like you're holding a dinner plate or something gigantic like a glass, or perhaps an Apple mouse pad or something like that. I mean, it's just very, very hard to hold up to the ear for a long period of time. And I find that because of how big it is to hold in the hand, your hand, at least for me, like, it's actually kind of tiring to hold it up to the ear for a long period of time. Granted, not going to be a huge problem, and not like people actually make phone calls anymore, but for those that are used to being on long phone calls, conference calls, if you're like me, I'm on the phone for 45 minutes or an hour for any given call, that can be frustrating for some people. That said, if you like this device, you like the battery life, maybe a little bit too big for you, and you can always get a Bluetooth headset, so that's not something intended to deter you by any means away from this device. So 5,788 on Quadrant Standard over here. Very fast. I saw speeds as high as 6,200 on Quadrant Standard, so that 1.6 gigahertz quad-core Exynos processor really doing its thing over on the Note 2. Where the Note 2 excels, though, is in software. Take a look at this, for example, and I'm pointing out some of this stuff in other videos, but I can double tap, for example, and I can access S Note, and can save an S Note. Hey there. Smiley face. That's a terrible smiley face, but you get the idea. And save an S Note, and I can back right out from there. So this is great for when I'm on a phone call, when I'm in the middle of something and I'm like, oh, I need to have a note. I can easily double tap, access my S Note, and when I'm done, I'm done. That's a nice feature. Just love overall some of the S Pen features here, and some of the features like the video player, like I showed you in part 1. You can hover over things and see previews without actually opening them, and obviously, for example, here, you can see I can scroll back and forth between those and just hover over them, making it really easy to access stuff without actually going into it. I find that really really useful. S Pen, great functionality here, and that's really where it's going to boil down to, is content creation on this device. So whether you're watching a YouTube video, perhaps you're doing something with the S Pen, you've got some awesome features like S Note here. I'll load up a new S Note and pull it closer so I can actually see it. Select a template, there we go. Load up Note here, and this is really where this device is a winner to me. So we'll come in here and say, hey there, and huge improvements here over other devices. I'm gonna move that up so my emails aren't popping up on the screen, distracting people. Hey there, and you can see the text overall looks a little bit more realistic to me. This looks actually like how I would write, as opposed to the original Note, where it was very much less sensitive to my own individual writing style. So very useful here. Looks a lot more like my actual handwriting. And then of course, thanks to some nice benefits as part of the premium software suite, and again, you're seeing what I mean when I say I hover over stuff and get descriptions. Very cool there. I can do stuff like shape match, formula match, and handwriting to text, which I find really useful if you're drawing a diagram, you're in a meeting, you want to talk about, maybe you want to draw those really cool square things that we always drew in elementary school or middle school. As you can see there, this was like all the rage. There you go, bam. I can do that thanks to some of the stuff in the premium software suite as part of S Note on Android 4.0 and on Android 4.1. So I can close that out. Actually, I won't even bother to close that out. I'll just back out from there. Benefit there. And then of course you got some nice features which we'll talk about more in separate videos, and go take a look at the review if you want full stuff on this blocking mode and more. Now over here, you've got some neat features as well that have been added to iOS 6. You've got Do Not Disturb on this device. I can turn it on and I can easily access my Do Not Disturb settings over here. And I can go in and say, hey, from 10 o'clock to 7 o'clock, I only want to allow calls from my favorites. And then I can select repeated calls and keep those on. So if somebody calls me, work calls me twice in a row because it's an emergency at 1 o'clock, and there's a press release that's breaking, I can access it quickly and easily. That said, Do Not Disturb is great if you want to just avoid emails, avoid certain calls, and you can always add people to your favorites list. So I can always add my staff to my favorites list, a family, significant others, things like that, easily to this list, and then of course they're not applicable to the Do Not Disturb rules. That's a nice feature. Notification Center still here on this device, and like I said, you can integrate Twitter and Facebook directly into that. And of course you'll notice Amber Alerts and emergency alerts over here as well. Another area that's received a nice improvement, the App Store over on this device. So take a look at the App Store, you'll see it looks different over here. We'll get features loaded up so you can see how it looks. New and noteworthy, a little bit different. So when I click on something like, let's say Mirrorgram, we'll load this up. And then you can see the price here, 99 cents, details, reviews, and related, all accessible here via kind of a tab setup. And then down here I have my charts, Genius, search, and updates. I can go to details, I can go to reviews, and scroll up and down, and of course I can go back and access all my other stuff. So charts, let's go into charts and look at our top 25 free. You can see all of those. And so you can see kind of just refreshed here, looks a lot better, a little bit cleaner, and when you do have a free application. Fortunately with purchased things, when you go to update those, you don't have to re-enter your password. That was always a point of contention for a lot of people that had worked with iOS, myself included. Other benefits include the VIP inbox, so we'll go back out here and you can take a look. We'll edit, actually let's cancel that out. Let's go back to mailboxes. And you can see here, I can set people as VIP. So I can go into VIP, select one of my contacts, and from there, I can add them. So whenever, for example, let's say I don't have my email set up in my notifications, just because I get, on a given day, I get between 200 and 400 emails. So I don't want all those appearing in my notifications bar, but I can set it to where my VIP people do. So again, my staff, people I work with, my significant other, my family, whoever, I can set as the new notifications, so when they do come in, they'll pop up as part of the VIP folder and not as part of the general inbox folder. So that's a nice little feature as well. So I think for Apple, it's a lot, for them now at least, it's less about redefining the game and more about kind of honing in on things people want and kind of just making it an easier application and something that's overall easier to use. Passbook is another one of those. So Passbook, like it says here, easy way to get all your passes in one place. It's the coolest thing I've ever heard of, and it's implemented in one of the most poor ways I've ever seen in my entire life. So I can go into App Store, for example, and I can look at the apps for Passbook. So I have American Airlines. I fly primarily American Airlines, so I can install that, for example. I only see my ticket, though, on the day that I'm flying. So, for example, I can see a huge use for this with Fandango, with American, with Lufthansa, with United, where I can see my frequent flyer accounts, because I have accounts with United, Lufthansa, and American. So I'd love to be able to come in there and say, hey, look, you're not flying today, but you've got 60,000 frequent flyer miles, your gold or platinum status or executive platinum status, and here's your account at a glance. It doesn't have to be just about tickets. I think there's a huge case to be made that they could use this for information gathering purposes, and I would love to see that in future rollouts of Passbook. So far, all I've been able to get to really work is the Walgreens stuff. So hopefully as it rolls out and more applications continue to use it, we'll see greater stuff there. So I'm going to bring up Maps as well. load up Charlotte here and take a look. You can see I'm in the city, and of course I have the 3D part turned on as well. Apple's Maps has gotten kind of a beating in the press lately because of some issues. I find that quite a few of those have been fixed. I haven't had any issues whatsoever with Maps, and of course I can do turn-by-turn directions here as well. Let me see here, load that up, current location, there we go. And then I can end that and say, let's say Gastonia. Bam. Let's say Gastonia Mall. And so I can do, of course, my turn-by-turn directions. I can start it.
Route to North New Hope Road.
And bam.
Head northeast on North Tryon Street.
Quick and easy, and I can end it when I'm ready to go. That said, like I said in part 1, I've had some huge gesture responsiveness issues, and I hope you're kind of seeing what I'm talking about here, because I just did it. I meant to click Gastonia, North Carolina, and it clicked Gastonia Mall instead. Little things like that, kind of irritating. But overall, I've been relatively impressed, and you have the same stuff here where I can go back to standard map if I want to. I can go to satellite, I can drop a pin, I can show traffic. Let's see how we look right now in the metro. And of course, I can flip it around as well and kind of angle it any way I want it to angle. And then of course I can come down here and find my location quickly and easily, and I can see all the traffic issues. So overall, I've been relatively impressed with Maps. That said, when it rolled out, no comparison to Google Maps, and it's still no comparison in my opinion to Google Maps. I think Google Maps is far more robust than Apple's version, but I think there's a lot to improve on here. I think they'll continue to do well with this, and you know, the name of the game now, like I've said in several dogfights and videos, is all about software, and these carriers and manufacturers are trying to ramp up their software offerings. Apple is no different. They're not immune from that, so I think that's what they're going for there. Last but not least, let's take a look at camera on both of these devices. 8 megapixel cameras, 1080p HD video recording on both. We'll bring in, let's see, what can we bring in to, we'll do, this is red, so we'll bring in this for more of a comparison. Of course, Apple's showing off Panorama. Panorama is nothing new to quite a few Android devices, but that's something that's unique to this device overall. That said, like I keep going back to, the fluidity of the iPhone 5, despite having some gesture issues in either iPhone 5 or iOS 6, the fluidity is very impressive, and it continues to be good on this device. The camera is absolutely fantastic as well. You can see flawless portrait to landscape orientation, and of course, pinch to zoom, very responsive as well. Right there. So little to no lag there, quick and easy to use, and then we'll show the 8 megapixel camera over here as well. Let's get it up here. And let's see what we can do. But the benefit here is you do get some nice additional software features, things like Smile Shot, Buddy Photo Share, where I can share pictures, Share Shot, Best Faces. I do absolutely love Best Faces. This is pretty cool. I don't have any faces in the picture right now, but this is really cool where you can snap a picture and it'll obviously take the one that's the best face, the biggest cheese, or the biggest thing like that. That's a nice feature. So I'm all about camera features, and these are both very close in terms of overall picture quality, but I give an edge to the Galaxy Note 2 because of overall camera features, not to mention S-Beam, which I've covered in several videos, very impressive there. So it's a dogfight. It's always a challenge, and it really depends on what you want with these devices. It's very impressive across the board with both. This is a huge phone. You can see the iPhone 5 fits in the actual display of this. Big phone, hard to hold, but it has some cool things like an S Pen for content creation, and it depends if you want that kind of tablet form factor with a great battery life to do some great stuff, not to mention this has Jelly Bean out of the gate. Then you have the iPhone 5 expanding on an existing successful formula, continues to be very successful, and this phone just looks absolutely great. Design is beautiful. It feels well in the hand. It feels like a premium device, and it's got a lot of things that I think a lot of people like. That said, the dogfight winner is the Galaxy Note 2 because, like I've said in the past, it's all about software. These are really on equal playing fields now in a lot of ways when it comes to software, and it's going to depend on overall software improvements, things that make it better, and I think that's where the Note 2 comes into play. Things like blocking mode, things like palm swipe to take a screenshot. All of these features are really, really cool. Screenshot, palm swipe, I can name a million more. Shortcuts on the home screen, weather on the home screen, press and hold and turn it while on the home screen to access the camera. They're doing some neat things over here with TouchWiz, and I think that's really beginning to show with the Galaxy S3 and the Note 2. iPhone 5 is an incredibly successful formula. That said, this is the first iPhone, like I said, where I feel like they're kind of playing catch up to some of the other hot Android devices on the market. So now a ton of great choice. If you like iPhone, that's awesome. It's a great improvement to the 4S. If you like Android, that's awesome. This is a huge improvement to the Note 1 and will continue to be a nice device for a lot of people that want power and portability but want tablet-like functionality. So it depends on what you like, but in terms of a dogfight winner, it comes to the Note 2. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for continuing coverage of both of these devices. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDog, and be sure to hit me up on Twitter. Let me know what you think of both of these devices at PhoneDog_Aaron and on Facebook. at facebook.com/PhoneDogAB. Stay tuned for more dogfights. The Note 2, this is just the first of many, including the Galaxy S3 and others. So stay tuned for more on both of these devices on PhoneDog.com. We'll see you next time.